What's up, everyone? My name's Gillis Jones, and this has been my baby for the past 6 or 7 months. Little thing I call the Badman project. Well, first of all, this is who I am. I'm an AppSec researcher with White Hat Security. I'm in the Threat Research Center, which we do all the web application hacking and breaking and generally making developers crying and sweat and resign on the phone. I've been doing it for about 3 years. It's like for a lot of y'all, it's a passion. You enjoy it and it gets in your blood. I was one of the first people to turn in a bug bounty on the Google Plus product when it initially released. I have received, well, quite a bit more than that now in Facebook bug bounty. And like I said, I make developers sweat, but not in the, oh, he's so sexy kind of way. But, well, hey, what can I say? So pimp. Anyway, but, in the, oh shit, he just broke my app. This is who I work for. They're one of the big web app providers out there. Now, let's get into the talk. What's a Badman? I'm sure we've all had one of these on the web front end. An app developer who essentially just wants to get the product out. They don't care about security, they don't care about the users. Either through laziness or ignorance, they don't alter any of the default configs on the application. So they basically leave it completely stock, completely default. Even if they customize the front end, they'll leave default passwords, default ports, everything, and basically allow anyone to admin your server. How convenient, right? Or, and these are the ones I absolutely love, CMS developers who hard code passwords or passphrases into the application. So, viewing the source or viewing the actual decompiled code and finding admin passwords, which, you really can't beat. Now, is having defaults on your server, is that really a problem? How many of y'all have stumbled across an admin page while doing testing? You think it's a problem? And there are 10 million results on Google alone in the US that are /admin or /admin login PHP. Now, there are hundreds and thousands of different iterations of admin portals, and this is just one combo, and there's 10 million of them. This isn't ASPX, this isn't JSP, it's none of the above. It's only /admin. Now, if you want to factor in, China and Iran and, some of the state actors, it multiplies ridiculously. China alone has somewhere around 3 million of just /admin login PHP. Now, an interesting fact, real quick, if you do a lot of searches, either through legitimate research or just because you're bored, for Chinese or Iranian sites, Google will block you out. And they will actually request that you complete a CAPTCHA after every search, which makes me think, they typically only do that if there's a huge amount of requests being issued for a certain search pattern. So I'm wondering if maybe there is another government entity out there looking and trolling for Chinese and Iranian low-hanging fruit. Not saying it's a government entity, but it's probably a government entity. So what can you get from an admin page? You know, typically, if the defaults aren't enabled, you wouldn't think it would be that bad. But just by the admin file path resource on the end of the URL, you can tell in a lot of cases what they're freaking using. Like, for example, with peer, it uses a command parameter on the end of the URL. So, you know, if you see, you know, PU login, either A, you're logging into a waste management site, or you're logging into peer. Now, Renovatio, which is a Italian CMS, it uses the RVGet document, which you're actually able to do some more fun stuff in that parameter, which can bypass some authentication mechanisms, but I can't really talk about that. Sorry. It can allow an attacker to refine their target prior to engagement. So, you know, how many of you have actually been on live engagement attacking a site? All right, a couple of you. Now, how critical is it that you hit it quickly? You hit it and forget it, so that they don't have time to respond. If you don't do proper recon beforehand, you're going to throw up so many red flags, you're going to get locked out before you even have a chance to attack, let alone get party banned. So this entire project was basically born out of an absolute frustration at having to research admin portals every freaking time that I was doing an engagement. You know, if you see a certain file path that's being called, you have to look it up. If you see a certain pattern that the site's following in their resource calls, you have to look it up. There's no central resource. Pheno Elite out of Germany did an absolutely amazing list of default hardware passwords. And I would absolutely recommend, like, if you ever have a router or a hardware box that you need to get into, look up Pheno Elite. Their list is absolutely comprehensive, and you won't be let down. So I couldn't find a list like that for web apps. So I wanted to make it a little bit more simple for web app testers like myself to, you know, find admin stuff without having to spend tens of hours looking for it. Because I'm not sure if y'all are aware of this, but open source developers aren't the best documenters in the world. No. Salute. Sorry. All right, so on average, our engineers spend between 45 minutes and an hour simply researching platform-specific defaults, configurations, and exploits. And reducing it by 5 times makes it 5 times quicker to finish an engagement. So, in a nutshell, this is the Badman project. Essentially, I've assembled a list of about 300 to 400 CMSs, and the project's only about halfway done. And that's just for CMSs. I'm also looking to expand this into actual web app frameworks. So what the applications themselves are built on, not just the CMSs. But that's a long way down the line. Getting just this much information has taken about 300 to 400 man hours of research, actually assembling it all. Now, there are a couple of things you can find in the actual database. First of all, you're going to find the login URL for the admin page. Now, this will sometimes tell you what framework they're using, you know, what CMS, for example, what kind of, sorry, I said CMS. If you have a drink, drink along. All right, so essentially you can tell what kind of framework they're using, whether they're up to date in the case of WordPress, because with WordPress, as a lot of you know, on the page itself, it calls certain resources, specifically CSS style sheets, that have the version number included in them. So, even though the page itself doesn't disclose the version, the WordPress resource calls do. And sometimes the actual login URL is associated with a port. For example, the Hippo CMS, damn it. If you have a drink, I expect you to drink along. All right, and occasionally the administrator will log in through the exact same portal as a common user, which can introduce its own authentication issues, but it's a lot more common than I'd like to think. Now, it'll also have the admin username and password. So in this case, for OpenWGA, the CMS has, oh shit. The CMS has, all right, so the content management system has the default username and password of admin and WGA. Now, in rare cases, there is, I list that there's specific authentication vulnerabilities in the site. So, for example, in some, you're able to simply put in a null password and a null username and log in. We're in 2012, and you can still do that. What's that? Don't make me cry. And you'll find a lot of stuff like that in the additional URL. Typically, this is a link to their god-awful documentation. And I mean that as lovingly as possible without killing anyone. A lot of these projects have just been created and abandoned. For example, I believe it was PHP Nuke. I'm not sure, but one of the PHP blank family of CMSs. What? Did you drink? All right. If you're on the front row in a talk of mine, you're going to get drunk. Now, this is typically a link to their documentation, whether it be forums or actual PDF documentation. A lot of them have been abandoned, such as PHP blank. The last time it was updated was in like 2004, and there's still something along the lines of 600,000 sites which run it, and there's damn near 200-300 vulnerabilities listed for this one platform. So it makes me cry. Yeah, and this makes it a lot easier to find documentation. So now also include links to known exploits. So in this case, I'm linking to the Sitefinity content management system. Now, I either link to the site exploitsdownload.com because they're the most reliable for CMSs that I found. Y'all suck. Or OSVDB, because unfortunately OSVDB doesn't have a huge range of web app related vulnerabilities. They typically focus on network and actual hardware layer stuff, and I found exploits download just in general had more web app stuff. So it's a good starting place, but by no means is it exhaustive. It's simply to make your job a little bit easier as a web tester. Now, a little bit of an analysis. I cried a lot putting this together. The most common default password is still, in 2012, admin. Guys, really? I know that we teach this in schools. I know we teach secure coding. I know we've taken classes on how to do it correctly, but we're still doing admin as the default. WordPress, at least, no longer has a default password. It assigns you some random string or whatever. And believe it or not, in CMS's case sensitive.
Now I think you're just saying it to say it. You just want to take excuse.
No. No. Case sensitivity is the exception, not the rule. So you'll see, even in some scenarios where they say you must have one uppercase letter, you can just reverse the case sensitivity of the entire string, and it will still let it through because it's just looking for the Boolean value of that string. So if it's 0 for capital and 1 for lowercase, it's just looking for a different value on each of them. And so if you did capital 1, capital 2, undercase 3, 4, you could do undercase 1, 2, and capital 3, 4, and it would still let you through. And old platforms, they're still in uses. The last stable release was in 2006. This was the one I told you about that had hundreds and hundreds of vulnerabilities. And the most entertaining, of course, is the infamous God password combination. And I decided to include a quote from the great philosopher Serial from Hackers. You can never forget God, man. System operators love to use God. It's that whole male ego thing. Now, right there, I've been talking a lot about theoretical stuff, and I know that admin default seems like a really boring thing, but I said I'd like to show y'all what you can really get with it. So just real quick, some publicly known attacks off of this. The Utah state government essentially had all of their internal network information disclosed because of one CMS that was exposed. Sorry. One CMS that was exposed and had, oh God, I swear I'm not intending to do that. It had default admin credentials on it and allowed command execution on file upload. So essentially you could upload your own anything. And, for example, if I'm not mistaken, what they used was I want to say a JS backdoor on the system, which allowed them to pivot into the internal network and compromise the payroll information. for the employees. And their entire SEC team got sacked immediately. So 500 socials and I think 200 banking information was actually disclosed. What's that? Yeah. And according to the Verizon report, the DBIR is the data breach investigation report. So 44% of the breaches that they actually analyzed in 2010 were actually a result of default passwords being exploited. Now, whether it was just network stuff or CMSs, they don't actually designate the difference, but it's actually very noticeable that in smaller orgs it's 44%, but in larger organizations the number actually goes down to 9%. And just kind of as an aside to this, on a more business-oriented part, I really think it's due to smaller businesses not taking security seriously, because you really can't afford to invest in security, right? It's not worth the investment, because it's not like you could get put out of business by being hacked or anything. So this is an example from a real-life test that I did. This is a, oh shoot, what was the name of the app? The actual CMS, it was called, I'm gonna come down there. The actual application was called Search Seeker, which is a internal search administrative functionality. So essentially, this one admin database controlled about 18 SQL servers. Now, let me show you what you can get here. In this one database, the content management system actually made it possible. It kept logs of all of the blacklist hits against the site. So essentially, I, as an attacker, could be attacking your site and see every time that your blacklist kept me from doing something. Why is this bad? Exactly. And you're able to actually see what they're encoding or what they're not encoding, or you could even potentially get cross-site scripting in the actual log itself, which is a lot of fun, by the way. And if they're actually storing it locally, if they're running it through the terminal window or command prompt if you're on that system. It's actually possible if they're recording each blacklist hit individually. It's actually possible if they're not encoding it prior to passing it to the terminal to get command execution, because they're passing the unencoded value into the terminal. Now, you can use it for refining attacks, and also in this case, it actually gave me an internal IP address, which of course allowed me to pivot and call the host name directly. It gives me specifics about your network setup, so I don't have to, shoot around blind on your internal network throwing up flags. Also tells me what server operating system you're running. Now, not just your operating system, what version, what your host name is, what license number of the OS you're running. So I can actually refine my attack based on your specific operating system. Again, reducing the amount of time that I have to spend trying to break your site. So, also, yay, search seeker. So, I get a click history of your administrators. So, I get to see exactly what you went through, exactly, what files are interesting to you. Because I, as an attacker, what's interesting to you is interesting to me. If you're interested in a log, chances are there's some information that you want in there. And I just want to be an administrator. I just want to help. Oh, CMS. Fuck. Shit stabbed me in the eye. And, more than just finding out what's important on the network, you can also figure out when their admins perform maintenance. So you can actually see, when typically the administrators will log in. So when am I going to do my attack? Am I going to do it when the admins are logged in? Hell no. I'm going to hit that sweet spot right where they don't give a fuck. And you also get, of course, the buffer size of the temporary file directory, so you know your exact limits and what you can go beyond, and the internal file path structure, which will, of course, tell you, again, where they store your files, so how hard you have to work to get to the really good stuff. And for even more fun, they actually give you a directory listing of the files in that file folder. I'll just let you look at this for just a second. You see that second one? There's a power button. Does that seem like a good idea to anyone in here? All right, so let's recap. This is a Fortune 50 business who has a publicly available, you put in this IP address, you put in this host name, you get a basic prompt. Also, who the hell uses basic authorization anymore? If you do that, just finish your drink, but because you need it. With the default admin, and you let me turn off all of your SQL servers. Thank you. I love you. You made this so much easier. And on this specific CMS, it actually tells you one down. It actually tells you exactly which all of the users on the on the system. So in this case, it tells you every freaking user, allows you to change their password, allows you to delete the user, and actually change their access role. So if I decide I want to persist my session, I didn't like the defaults on my session as an attacker, so I'm going to change the permission level for the default admin, create my own session, give it the highest level, and then demote you down to normal user so you can't do anything about my attack. Anyway, allows you to change passwords for any user account without any reauthorization, without any CSRF protection, without anything, which, again, makes me cry. So you can also disable any of the protection controls that are enabled for your site. So you can disable all of the logging on your CMS. You can disable Steve, I'm going to punch you.
Sitting here watching you drink is awesome. There's no way I'm going to survive that. Just finish it now. Yeah. Take a credit.
What'd you say?
Take a credit.
Credit?
Yeah, if you finish it now, then the next 2 or 3 times you say it, you get away with it.
So, you can see that you can actually disallow links from the directory listing, which is not good. You can actually choose not to log disallowed URLs that are uploaded to your server. You can actually filter Lotus Domino navigation links. How many of you have had the misfortune of using Lotus Domino? I'm so sorry. I hate NSF files. Anyway, and it's not like I can't see your SSL password here or anything. And I definitely don't see your key list there. I promise. Oh, and I don't see your sysadmin's email address either. Oh, and more than anything else, I promise I don't see your NT daemon login at the bottom there. See, username? Yay! So, honestly, huh? What can I say? But yeah, it's a really interesting flaw, and I'm rather intoxicated now, so I figure I'll just wrap it up. If anyone has any questions, I completely forgot to put that up. I'm a terrible person. So the actual website for that is white. Shoot. No. I'm so sorry. If you want the actual address, come up to me in a second, and I'll write it down for you. Damn it. Wait. Yeah. CMS. Well, fuck that then. All right, so let me ask you something. From a content management system standpoint, what's the stupidest thing you've seen done on a website?
Database backup in the root.
Really? Yeah. Now, like full database backup or?
Database backup sitting there in a tar in the root.
Wow. So let me just go ahead and close this. So yeah. What's that? Oh God. Anyway, guys, thank y'all for coming. And if you like, and seriously, if you'd like the link to the CMS database, sorry.